ask someone else on the panel here a question. It's up to you who you want to ask and what you want to ask. They have a minute to respond. First one up is, just randomly pick here, is Bevan Dufty. Okay.
Joanna, can you share an experience in which you talked or worked with either an officer or a firefighter, and what that experience might have been around, whether it was the situation in your neighborhood or an incident that happened to somebody? If you could sort of talk about that experience you had and what you experienced working with that firefighter or police officer.
Thanks, it's a great question. I would always say I've had just a great experience working with any firefighter or police officer in San Francisco in a time when you're traumatized. Whether it was one time really smelling smoke in my house and not knowing what it was coming from, and making a phone call and just having an absolute phenomenal comprehensive assessment done where they went to absolutely every room. They told me not to worry. They told me how to monitor it going forward, and thank God they found nothing, but it was a great experience. On the police side, unfortunately, my son was driving and someone was visiting from out of town and hit his car and totaled the car down in the Tenderloin. And I will tell you, the response from both police and fire in that experience was unbelievable, just in terms of, making me feel safe and secure that he was being well taken care of, the way they questioned everything, the way everything got handled, and the way that they really dealt with security in the area. So I've been super impressed, and I've always had a really great experience.
Michela, Alioto-Pier.
Do you Chiu?
Yes, Michela. I mean, you've been to a couple of debates with a guy. You must have something you've always wanted to ask.
You know, Phil, we spend so much time together. We talk all the time. I just, anyway. All right, I represented District 2 for 6.5, 7 years on the Board of Supervisors. District 2, for those of you who don't know, is the Marina, Cow Hollow, Pacific Heights, Presidio Heights, Western Hill, Seaport, west of Lake, Jordan Park. One of the big issues in that community is disaster relief. During 1989, during Loma Prieta, the marina was hit very hard, so was the Bayview. We've talked a little bit about this during some of our debates, but back in 1989, we had the 6th Army Division in the Presidio as an active military base, and we had Alameda Naval Air Station as an active Navy base. We had 11,000 first responders on the ground in the marina and in the Bayview within 2 hours as a result of the fact that we had that infrastructure. And Alameda Naval Air Station, under Admiral Bidoff, used their boats to bring people into shore, because 72% of our first responders, cops and fire, live outside of San Francisco. So what can we do as we move on into the future? We no longer have the Presidio, we no longer have Alameda, which means we no longer have those first responders to help us. How do we ensure the safety of San Francisco when most of our first responders live outside of the city and we don't have the same infrastructure as we did in 1989?
Well, Michela and I actually share a borderline, and I'm very also concerned about preparedness in my district, which you happen to be in right now, so welcome to District 3. There are a number of things that I have been working on. So last year, I partnered up with the firefighters to help pass an earthquake safety bond, to help rebuild our city's infrastructure when it comes to dealing with earthquakes. 100 years ago, after the 1906 earthquake, we built an underground water system that was top of the world at that time. But 100 years later, that system is crumbling. And in fact, we were very lucky in the 1989 Loma Prieta earthquake that the fires happened close to the water, so we could actually fight those fires with fireboats. And what this bond measure is going to do is allow us to rebuild that underground water system, to seismically upgrade fire stations, to rebuild our police command center. These are all incredibly important things that we need to do right now. But another part of preparedness ensures that our residents are ready to go. I'm a big supporter of our NERT program, which the fire department runs to train volunteers and residences to be prepared. It's something I supported during the budget process and was able to ensure that that program was not subject to budget cuts this year. Thank you.
So what about first responders not being here?
We have to do a better job of providing workforce housing and opportunities for not just firefighters and cops, but teachers and middle-class workers who are critical to our community to be able to live here. And I have a long record of fighting for new housing opportunities. This past year, we helped to greenlight 3 major housing projects in the city. In the south part of the city, Bayview's Hunter Point. In the east side of the city, Treasure Island, and the west side of the city, Park Merced, almost 30,000 units of new housing that will hopefully provide new opportunities for the next generation of firefighters and police officers.
Phil Ting, got a question for someone?
Sure, I was going to ask Supervisor Alioto-Pier, I know you've always been a very strong proponent of public safety. I was wondering if you would just share with us what your public safety agenda and priorities would be as mayor.
Try to keep it to a minute.
Okay. Thank you, Assessor Ting. Right before I left office, one of the last things that I got passed was a bill that allowed or at least it requires testing of all rape kits. What most people don't know, particularly women, is that all the rape kits that are collected in San Francisco are not always tested. When they started, and they'll sit on the shelves for months sometimes, they did it in New York City, and once they started testing all the rape kits in New York City, they got a 70% increase in conviction rates. And so I think that when I look at San Francisco and a lot of the conversations that I've had with our police officers, there are a lot of different issues out there that are extremely important. We talked a little bit about gangs and gang violence, but what we don't typically talk a lot about are issues related to women and the way that women are impacted. And rape is one of them that is sort of shoved under the carpet. And there are a number of other issues specifically related to women and children that I think we need to put a greater focus on, especially when we start looking at issues related to trafficking in San Francisco, which is also one of those things that we just don't talk about.
Joanna, question?
Assessor Ting, you have been working on Reset San Francisco and getting input from the community. What's been the most compelling idea that you've heard from the community regarding the future of the city?
The most compelling idea. What has been the most compelling idea? What we have done is ask San Franciscans from around the city to share with us many of their thoughts. So I don't know if we have one compelling idea. I mean, the ideas that we've been talking about. We talked about why we should preserve care, not cash. We all think that was an extraordinarily important ballot measure to preserve. There's been ideas to involve more people in civic government. We should, instead of making everybody come down to City Hall, maybe we could use YouTube. We could use technology so they wouldn't have to take 3 hours off work to come down to testify for 30 seconds or for 2 minutes. We've heard about all the various disasters around Clipper Card. We've heard also about Muni and really the huge frustration about why Muni and transit in San Francisco isn't better. And some of the ideas have been actually really simple to, why do we have so many bus stops, or how do we time the lights for the streetcar and the side and the stoplights. So I think what this hope is that I think what's going to fix San Francisco isn't one big silver bullet. It's going to be a lot of little ideas and making sure that we work on those ideas every single day.
David Chiu.
I'll ask a question of Dennis. Dennis, as someone who used to run a small business, I know that we have a business tax that has really been a drag on our economy. I think you and I share a perspective on the importance of business tax reform. I'm wondering if you could talk about what you would do, which I know, haven't heard of this before, is something I would like to do as well.
Yeah. Thank you, President Chiu. You are correct. I've talked about that. I know that you have provided leadership in this area as well. I think one of the biggest drags on San Francisco's economy is the fact that we have a business payroll tax that is fairly unique. We're the only city in the state of California that has it. Only 8,000 of our 80,000 businesses pay. And it disproportionately impacts small and medium-sized businesses and discourages job creation and job growth, and is an outgrowth of something that happened 10 years ago when our business tax was different. We had a gross receipts tax and payroll tax You calculated it, and whichever one was the higher, you paid. There was a lawsuit, there was a settlement, the gross receipts tax went away, and we were left with the business payroll tax, which has been a job killer in San Francisco and also cost us $50 million from what we got before. It provides us with about $350 million in revenue to fund city services. But it is not fair to small and medium businesses, and I think we need to come up and reform it. That's why I called for a business tax summit that I will call for my first day as mayor, bringing together business leaders, community leaders, and city leaders to design a new business tax that is fair to small, medium, and large businesses, encourages job creation and job growth, and also provides us with a much more steady revenue stream so we have predictability of the money that we're going to get from our business.
So now your question? Now your question.
My question is to Joanna Rees. I know that Joanna has been a leader in education reform, and I wanted to ask her about this. I'm sure you're aware, Joanna, that our city's general fund, we're fairly unique in California in that we provide $60 million a year to the school district by virtue of voter initiative, Proposition H, which is scheduled to expire in a couple of years. My question to you would be, would you look to extend that and possibly expand that to provide additional city assistance to the school district? And if so, would you want it to be targeted to any particular initiatives?
We are woefully short in money in the school district. We just had to cut another $100 million out of school funding this past year. We had another $100 million budget cut back, and money, just in terms of overall what we spend as the state of California, it's about $9,000 per child per year, and there's many states across the country that it's $16,000 or $17,000 invested in a child's education, and we really are on the brink of not having a lot of resources. So it's critical that we try to maintain everything, we do everything we can to maintain the investment that's in there, so I would look to extend that. This is also where I spent a lot of time working to try to find innovation in the area of delivering public education, trying to find new ways where we can improve the quality of education by spending less money. And I don't mean spending less money by not paying teachers well. I think we should pay teachers incredibly well. But it's trying to find new ways of even supporting things like digital textbooks, where we spend a lot of money on a textbook per subject, per child. I think it's $85 a year per book, and there's lots of technology that's available today as the innovation capital of the world we should be implementing. And so I really look for ways that we could bring more of an entrepreneurial approach. How do you deliver better quality of service or better quality of education for less money?
Well, that's very interesting. But as a voter, my question, for I'm sure a lot of people are asking, with ranked choice voting, it seems to have changed the tenor of this campaign a bit. So, considering that most of your
Just wait till Ed Lee gets here.
Oh yeah, maybe.